My gameplay revealed, the Evo lineup fully shown to the people. We also have some locals discourse, and is Switch 2 going to be the console savior the FGC needs? We're back with another episode of Extra Trashy. Not because I'm stalling about the trash talk coming up. Okay, maybe that's why. But it was another excuse to link up with my official, unofficial co-host here, Idom, the Glizzy Gladiator. How you doing, man?
What's up? How's everyone doing?
You were really going in on that hot dog clip circling Twitter. What's going on here?
I don't even remember the topic of it. It was just something like, you don't eat a glizzy raw, something like that. Like, you need something. You got ketchup, relish, mustard. Come on, you need something. It can't be raw glizzy. People just don't understand how to eat food nowadays.
You need something to help, add some moisture, let it go down smooth. I understand. Listen, I'm right there with you, man. I had to defend you on Twitter. I was like, people don't get. I get what you're putting down here. But what Capcom's been putting down is the My gameplay trailer, finally showing off how My looks in action, and so the community got to react to that. And I was pretty impressed because I did a little bit of studying, just a little bit of studying of Mai's gameplay in previous KOF titles, because I was, very ignorant of how she played in KOF titles, and she was very mobile in those games, kind of a tricky character, a lot of wall jumps and different aerial approaches, and has her like zoning and her hit and run sort of tactics, and that doesn't mesh too much with how Street Fighter 6 is played for the most part. So instead, they centralized a lot of the focus on the gameplay around her install with level 1 to give her flame stocks so that she can throw her projectiles and have them enhanced so that they actually just blow through other projectiles, and it also enhances her combo routes, and the projectile, the fan on block and on hit, will bounce off the opponent and allow for like a mix up between while the fan will come down for a second hit. So it looks like we got a set play character, right?
Yeah. It's cool because I don't think there's any character whose level 1 actually matters too much. Like, there's no character whose level 1 does that much for them. Everyone's like, Rashid level 2, kind of how you play the character, Blanca level 2, etc. But no one's level 1 has ever been like that. So I'm curious to see if the level 1's actually all that, or are we gonna go back to just stalling for level 3 and just cash out level 3 for huge damage kind of character.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that because I think a big criticism from people who are a little not as much enamored with Street Fighter 6's gameplay is that there's a lot of centralizing mechanics, like low for a drive rush, right? It's such a powerful, almost universal mechanic that it kind of leads to very similar situations between the cast. But you're right, the level 1 being so integral to the gameplay, because the flame stocks, you get 5 per level 1, and it enhances all of her special moves. So it looks like they give her both more damage from what the Steam blog post mentioned, but on top of that, like extra juggle opportunities, and the projectiles become way more powerful because her fan is if you just throw the projectile normally, the fan is actually a hit projectile, which I think is also the first for Street Fighter 6, where you can just press a button to clash with it and dissipate it, which you're incentivized to do so, because if you block or get hit by it, she gets a mix-up. As soon as the fan comes in and makes contact with you, the My player can like drive rush in behind it and either go for a throw before the fan comes back down from the sky, or a high-low mix, right? So really kind of a nasty situation. But with the flame stock, you instantly get that charge variation where it's a true projectile, and it also goes through non-OD projectiles as well. So that's a huge buff. If she can win the fireball battle, just throw out a flame stock fan and instantly get pressure from that, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I feel if her level 1, it's also going to depend, like, even if it's on block on hit, because, like, a lot of level 1s you can kind of just throw out and, is an invul reversal, kind of like a pseudo DP if you think about it. But if hers works on, like, say, block, like, say, mine does a wake up level 1 and then, it's blocked, but, next round she's still going in with like the fan buff. It's going to be worth it. And I feel like you're going to be really scared to kind of pressure her anyway, because you're like, oh, I know this level 1's going to come. Yeah, she might lose the round, but even then she's going to get buffed and she's going to be even better next round than the round before. So I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that you could actually mess around with SF6, with like the drive system and like the meters and everything, but it's always fun to kind of see that kind of stuff.
Right, actually, like, that's a good point.
Kind of circulate.
I didn't consider that maybe the flame stocks would go between rounds. Did they? I don't think they specified that. I don't think they specified if you get the stock on block or hit, or if it lasts between rounds. So that will actually change the meta. but I like them at least, like you mentioned, just doing something unique with the level 1 in general. I think that's just like at least a unique twist to the character, because if it was just the fireball with the mix, the fireball itself is unique, but it would just be fireball drive rush. You know,
just another fireball drive rush,
right? Which is like another big category of character in the game. There's like low forward drive rush, there's fireball drive rush, and some characters have both, right?
Yeah. But no, you forgot the button drive rush command grab. Those characters are in there too.
Oh, okay.
You know, the Lily Manons.
My bad. Yeah. How could I forget about all the Manons out there? I'm so sorry, Adam. But more importantly, are you going classic Mai or City of the Wolves alternate costume? Which one?
So I actually like the City of the Wolves new look. I actually think the new look looks way better than the old Mai. Maybe it's because I haven't played that many KOF games, but I don't know. I like the redesign. I like the jacket and like this kind of suit up, get up, kind of ready to fight.
Exactly. Sure. Sure. There's no other reason I'm
serious. I mean, I can't wait to try the character. Like I said, I'm not a fan of them doing the whole reveal all 4 characters kind of early, but like Mai was the one character in this pass because I don't like Bison. Bison's like I never liked Bison. Terry, I wasn't too excited for, but like Mai was the character. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to try this one character right here.
She seems like your type. Listen, when you told me that Tifa, you weren't a fan of Tifa, I was like, what are you talking about? But Mai's your type of character, right? You're gonna play Mai?
I'm gonna give her a shot. I mean, I don't know if I'll like switch off of Manon for her, but like even then, I'm definitely gonna invest more time into Mai than say a Bison. Like certain characters are just not for me. Like Bison is. I hate Bison. Bison's like one of my least favorite Street Fighter characters, actually.
Yeah. I feel like Bison's definitely a love or hate. Like it's if you enjoy playing Bison, you rock with them, but everyone else just always hates it, no matter which version. Since Street Fighter 4, he's always been mad obnoxious, just in different ways. And I feel like his a lot of his special moves are just like outdated game design.
It's funny you bring this up because like I've said this about all the old characters. Dhalsim's like that. Honda's like that. Blanca's like that. They're all just outdated like fighting game design, I feel like.
I definitely agree. But as for Mai, I feel like they struck a good balance, because another thing about her is she is a low forward drive rush character. They kind of glossed over that. They didn't show it directly, but they showed her crouching medium kick used in combos, and she's special canceling it. But it looks like the range isn't as impressive. It seems like her crouching medium punch, which doesn't look like a low. It's like she gets on the ground and hits with an elbow. That looks like it has more range. So that might be like more like what you fish with for drive rush cancel. So she is a low forward drive rush cancel and a fireball drive rush character. But it seems like they tweaked the balance of the tools a little bit at least, and added that level 1 mechanic to make her a lot more unique. And she doesn't seem to be leaning into like the hit and run aspect as much. I did really like her dive headbutt move, right? Her dive punch that she had, where if the zoning gets too much and people jump and she sets up the trap, she can air to air the medium and then get a full combo conversion, especially if she has meter and the flame stock, because the OD version of the dive punch will essentially like let them bounce into the fireball and get extensions from that. So they showed off some really cool combo routing. So I'm definitely going to try her. I'm impressed. Even though overall I kind of agree with your take on this DLC cast, I wasn't really excited about too many of the DLC characters. They did a good job with Terry, and I think Mai might be really fun to play as well.
Yeah, even Elena, like I don't know if it's just like me being old, but like even I just don't. Elena's not for me. Who cares kind of thing.
I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, when they announced that, I was like, wow, they're actually putting 2 SNK characters into Street Fighter. My take was, as long as people are excited, because I don't care. Even though I'm even playing Terry right now, like I did actually really like how Terry plays. I don't have any attachment to these characters. I will say the strategy might be working, because they did like a crossover where essentially like for City of the Wolves coming up, they have Chun-Li and I believe also Ryu.
It's Ken. No, it's Ken.
Excuse me, Ken. So those 2 characters are going to City of the Wolves, which I don't personally care about for the game itself. But Mai and Terry being in Street Fighter, I think has kind of made me a little bit more like aware of City of the Wolves coming up. And I've been seeing more and more of it, and I really like the cel-shaded art style. So it might be working. Maybe however much money SNK put out there for Capcom to make this crossover happen, I have to imagine SNK is the one paying for this, right? Like they have more to gain, in my opinion.
Well,
Maybe I'm wrong.
You don't think Capcom paying SNK to put, Ken and Chun-Li in City of the Wolves? Capcom can get the audience too. It could be the other way around. It's not everyone, sucking up to Capcom.
Brother, I'm sorry. The truth of the matter is SNK is just a subset of whatever Capcom audience that Capcom has. That's just the truth of the matter. I have to imagine that SNK is the one paying for this. Or who knows? I'm totally speculating here. Maybe there's no licensing fees exchanged for either of them, but I almost imagine that SNK paid for the development costs of those DLC characters in Street Fighter 6. But I think it's working. I'm actually excited for City of the Wolves. I'll try it out, and I'll definitely be trying out Mai when she releases, which I guess is next month. They didn't put a specific date, did they?
No, it's February 8th. It's February 8th or 7th, I think. One of those days.
You're right. Okay. Yeah. I don't have the exact date, but I remember now it was like the first week of February or something like that. So coming up a couple weeks, I'll have to prepare to try her out.
She's probably going to be legal for Capcom Cup. So actually, that's kind of interesting because Ed was not legal because I think Ed came out after Capcom Cup. So even then, like she could be busted. And then, everyone got to be ready for everyone to play Mai at Capcom Cup or something.
Yeah, she's coming out February 5th. And yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. There's plenty of time for her to be legal for Capcom Cup. I think Menno was even tweeting about that. And it's kind of the scariest character for a competitor in this situation, which I guess maybe you might be. Oh, man, it might be you, Item, huh? Now that I think about this. Are you going to be the Mai monkey wrench in the bracket right now?
I was already the Manon monkey wrench. Now, like I said, I'm going to try the character, so...
Right.
If she's good, I'm going to play her.
And the Poison. Let's not forget, right? Poison had not been out for. It's going to be longer than Mai will be released for this Capcom Cup. But Poison was a relatively new character when you won Capcom Cup.
I think it was like 3 months before, right? And Poison had just came out before Capcom Cup. Yeah.
Right. You didn't run the whole bracket with her, but that was the closing character. Was the new DLC actually? So, you have a history of doing this with a little bit of success. Interesting. And yeah, like Mena RD was discussing that, and it's kind of a weird character because it's a set play character, and a set play character, it's a character that's like you develop offense first for, then defense second. So you kind of have to go into overdrive on defense to really lab the character to make sure you don't get schmixed, because you can just lose. Like you've never played against the Mai, they start chucking fans, and then suddenly you're getting high-low mixed to death, and maybe even cross-ups, who knows, right? And then every time you try to parry, they get a punish counter throw. I could definitely see this getting gnarly quick. So I don't envy anyone in the Capcom Cup position for that, but it would be super hype to see someone get blown up from a couple of weeks old Mai.
Yeah, I think hopefully I'm that Mai player, because I don't know. Manon's good, but like I want to be the Mai player who does it.
Yeah, it's time to finally get with the times, dude. You're gonna have a low forward drive rush and a fireball drive rush.
Oh man, never seen. I was a jury player in the beta, so
Okay,
I already know the power.
Okay, good. You have some experience, because it can be a little unwieldy at first. When I went to Terry, I was like, oh my god, how do I do a low forward drive rush? I was like, man, you guys are so good at this. A year in, I've never done this even once. So yeah, you're ready then with the jury practice. But moving on now, we also had a lot of big announcements in regards to Evo, as the full lineup was officially released for the games, along with the details of all the upcoming expanded events that they added to this year's roster. They had accidentally leaked the Evo lineup early because they had a preview, like a pre-scheduled broadcast stream of the announcement, and it took like an auto screenshot thumbnail, and it was the graphic that had all the games on it, which was a little unfortunate for them. But I pretended to blur my eyes when they showed that, so that I pretended to not perceive it. But yeah, the games were announced, and surprise, surprise, Street Fighter 6 returning to Evo.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah, but I think as the lineup went on, I think the first big surprise to me really was MK1 making it back. That was kind of up in the air, right?
Really? I feel like, yeah. Well, as much as people like to harp on, MK1 being, bad, it's a big three. You could go outside and talk to somebody on the street. They know what Mortal Kombat is. Like it can't not be there. I
But
know everyone in the
they get
FGC is bringing it
historically
down.
low. They get really low entrance.
It's still a big three of fighting games. You go on the street, everyone knows Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat. I know I've been pushing the Strive's probably the new big three in the FGC, but ask any normal human being, they know what a Scorpion, get over here, Sub-Zero kind of thing is.
Right. You're not wrong about that. I agree with you with the brand appeal. It's just like it's so strange how Mortal Kombat and NRS games like don't quite cross over fully into the FGC and have that same level of success. In part probably due to like developer support, but something about it just doesn't seem to quite come together to have the same level of success in the FGC, especially relative to how popular the games are, because they outsell everything like by like orders of magnitude. So it's really always kind of up in the air in my opinion. I don't expect any NRS games to necessarily make it in the second year. It's never guaranteed anymore, which is absurd. I think it should be, but it's just a pattern we're seeing.
NetherRealm's usually fast about putting out Mortal Kombat games because like usually it'll be like, oh, MK10, Injustice 2, MK11, kind of like every 2 years a new video game. So I guess they haven't done one in a while with MK1, but I could definitely see this probably being the last year of MK1, and then Injustice 3 comes out next year or something like that. So
yeah, maybe
that's kind of what I'm expecting.
They skipped the Injustice cycle this year, right? It was like Mortal Kombat 11 straight to MK1, which kind of changed the cycle. So we'll see where they go with it. I know a lot of people are a little like upset with the game's trajectory. I'm hoping for the best for the hardcore NRS fans. I wish their competitive community was having a bit more momentum. So hoping for the best for them. But yeah, of course, like the regular staples, Tekken 8 made it back in as a main stage. Guilty Gear Strive, Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising is back. Under Night in Birth is back again as well, so that's pretty big. I think then the first shakeup really is Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is going to be a main stage Evo title, so that's kind of knocking out KOF 15 from being main stage. And the game's not even released yet, right? It's going to be out for like 3.5 months, I think, based on the schedule. It'll release 3.5 months before Evo, so it'll be a real early Evo. I guess kind of similar to Street Fighter 6. I think Street Fighter 6 had maybe like 7 months of time, maybe 6 months of time to marinate before the first Evo. But yeah, it'll be very early in the game's meta.
No, because wasn't Street Fighter 6 was June, and then August was Evo. Oh yeah, it was 2 months, but
even less. Yes, you're right. Sorry.
The crack whole debacle kind of I think ruined the whole excitement for Street Fighter 6's first Evo, because I feel like too many people knew how to play that game a bit too well for as short as it was out. But I'm excited for City of Wolves because I don't think any of that's happening right now.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I was mixing up the Street Fighter 5 release dates with Street Fighter 6. Yeah, and I think my memory was blurry because even if you weren't on the crack, you still had so many betas, and like we were getting such a drip feed of Street Fighter 6 content. And if you were going to tournaments, you had play tests and everything. So like the game did not feel that new, even for us non-cracked individuals. And on top of that, so many of the season 1 players who were winning early on were cracked out of their minds, right? They had been grinding nonstop, and they were just ahead of the meta. And so the meta, it was still very exciting. I think that first Evo was still amazing, but we kind of knew a little bit more about the game compared to a typical release cycle for fighting games. City of the Wolves, on the other hand, I've seen the opposite complaints where they're like, what the hell? Where's the beta? How are they going to test the netcode? How are they going to make sure the product is actually working? So they might have the opposite problem where we're going to have no exposure to the game, which means, the meta is going to be super underdeveloped. So you might just be totally surprised by what you see at Evo. Like you're not going to necessarily know what strategies people bring to the table. So that would be exciting for spectators. But at the same time, people are like, I'm a little unsure about this product. Like they haven't tested it. What if the gameplay is broken? What if the netcode and the servers aren't up to par, right? So we're having the opposite problem there. So it'll be surprise release day for everybody. Old school vibes.
I'm excited because like the early tournaments for any new fighting game is always super exciting. Like I can't wait to Combo Breaker City of Wolves, CEO City of Wolves. Like those are gonna be like the real kind of huge brackets to kind of keep your eyes open for and like see how the game's going to be played, or like what strategies people are building, what's strong. Maybe Ken's broken in that game or something, and Ken carried over his Street Fighter 6 powers into City of Wolves. So it'd be,
Yeah.
like I said, it's gonna be funny to watch. Like Ken's doing low
Oh
forward drive rush
no.
in City of Wolves and just like destroying everyone or something. It'll
Oh
be funny.
no, yeah, they're like, oh, should we port over his game specific mechanics, and he has low forward drive rush and fireball drive rush, and it's Ken Grand Finals City of Wolves Evo. That would just solidify that drive rush was a mistake. We'll see though. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm really digging the art style. So it's passing the eyeball test for me. That's what I've been saying, right? It looks cool. I'm gonna try it out. But speaking of a game that probably won't bring surprises, I don't know. We'll see. The final edition for the main stage games is another throwback tournament, which people are now starting to dub like the Capcom throwback, because the first year 2023 it was MVC3, then we had Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and now we have the predecessor to the best game, MVC2. MVC2, a classic Evo title where Justin Wong was racking up Evo wins. Champions like IFC Yipes and Sanford Kelly, that's where they got their titles. It's back as a main stage title, open bracket tournament. But it's interesting because, the contrast here, MVC2 is such a set in stone sort of meta with a little bit of development that's been happening over the years. I'm looking at players like J360, like his Iron Man teams. But even then, that's how far out of the realm of top tier team is that. It'll be interesting to see who really gets back into shape for this event, because I definitely want to see some top tier gameplay, and I want to see if we can be surprised by like a new player popping up here and showing out.
For some of the new Marvel 2 events, there have been a lot of like new players showing up. I know I can't remember this player's name, but there was one person who was playing War Machine. It was War Machine, Iron Man, and I want to say the last character was Sentinel or Commando. I don't remember who, but that person was just guard breaking everyone. And I remember it was like a Battle of the Stones or something, because Chris Matrix and Yipes used to run the Battle for the Stones tournaments for Marvel 2, and he was just guard breaking everyone. I think he was beating like Sanford and Yipes, and like
J360 does play. He doesn't play Iron Man War Machine. He plays Iron Man, Sentinel, and I think Magneto. He has its. I'm forgetting the third on his team, but I think there is another player who does both Iron Man and War Machine.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of those two players were definitely making waves, and I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how like the one touch meta is developing with those guys.
Yeah, my good friend Liston also has been telling me a lot. The Marvel 2, because he still plays Marvel 2 like religiously. The meta is really, you get the hit, guard break, the person's gonna come in, you get guard broken again into infinite, into kind of GGs. And it's just like, it's a one touch game kind of essentially, and it's funny to see that the meta is kind of like evolving into that, and I'm excited for Marvel 2 Evo. Am I gonna play Marvel 2 Evo? No, probably not. I don't want to get one touch, but I'm excited to see how everyone's going to kind of play around the one touch meta, or like if that's even going to work, because teams like MSP or MSS or Team Scrub even are still super top tier teams that kind of paved the way for how the game is played now.
Yeah, I'm wondering how popular it's going to be, because Third Strike at Evo last year had 1,103 entrants, which is huge. Wow. That's huge. But will that actually be the same for MVC2? And it's like, I don't actually know if that will grab the same number of entrants, because I think Third Strike, it's still a Street Fighter title. I think a lot of people are willing to just enter and just mess around and press buttons, be like, oh, I know low forward and I know fireball. I can go ahead and press those buttons and see what happens, right? But for MVC2, I do think there's a bit more of a barrier to entry there, and it's like super hardcore, and it's a 3-character game. So I'm actually wondering how many people will enter versus just spectate for this one.
I agree with you, but I believe Marvel 3 had like 1,400 or at least 1,600 people entering. So not to
1,300.
Not to glaze Marvel 3 being the best fighting game or anything, but I think games, I don't think the the three character like conversation is that valid, but I do believe Marvel 2 is such an old game, and I feel like it's so, I don't want to say gate kept, because like a lot of the good players can kind of just like beat the bad players kind of thing, but I don't. I feel like there will not be as many people in Marvel 2 as for like, a Third
Right.
Strike or a Marvel 3.
It's harder to play. It's just harder to pick
it's
up.
harder to play.
It's way harder to play.
play.
I agree with the point. The reason I brought up the 3 character thing, I agree with your point that that's not the biggest barrier to entry. I just think it's exasperated when the game is hard. MVC3 is such an easy game to have fun with at a casual level, but still has extreme depth at the high level. And you can just mash and things will happen, and it's so easy to get a ABC launcher series. The barrier to entry is super low, and it looks beautiful on top of that. So and it's not as old, so there's a lot more people who are probably still around, still playing today, who have some kind of nostalgic attachment to actually playing the game. For many people, MVC2, that's pre-2009 FGC. They were not part of the FGC when this game was actively played as a main stage title. They just know about it via the historical VODs and stories and tales of legends past, right? I never saw MVC2 played in its heyday. I had to look back and watch old tournament footage. I've dabbled with the game itself. It's definitely way harder to do a basic combo in that game. It's a lot more unintuitive. And as the game progresses to a higher level, it's such a different game compared to low level. I feel like MVC3 at high level is also a very different game than low level, but you can sort of see the stepping stones to get there. I feel like with MVC2, there's so much weird shit going on and so many glitches and exploits. You're just on a completely different plane of existence from a casual in that game at high level in MVC2.
There's so much nuance, and there's so many like little things that, like, if you don't know, or if you don't have this high level person whispering in your ear, kind of like, this is why this is happening. Like I said, Listen has explained glitches to me, and I'm just like, why is that in the game? It's just like, oh, it's just like that. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's just like, oh, yep, but that's how the game works. And I was like, okay. But those kind of things I feel like are very gatekeeping, and keeps a lot of, I guess, people from kind of trying to get to the super high level or entering Marvel 2 tournaments. So that's kind of like the thing I'm a bit scared of, with kind of like how many people are going to enter Marvel 2.
Right. On the other hand, though, I think those aspects of the game is what keeps its longevity going, because it makes it harder to get into, but it also makes it more worthwhile to stay. And so that's why I do feel like this tournament might end up being a bit more of a spectator event, because I think it's going to be more about, like, I want to sit back and watch the masters who have grinded this game for decades and do shit that I can't even fathom, right? Like, it has that sort of appeal to it, which I think is really good. And just to explain one glitch, like, we're talking about the Iron Man and War Machine guard breaks. There's glitches in the game where you come in, and if they hit you like before you touch the ground, and they manage to get like 2 hits in, your guard just breaks. Like, you can't block anymore. And I'm butchering the technical explanation of the glitch, but there's shit like that just exists where, like, you get 1 hit, you kill 1 character, and the next character cannot do anything about the incoming combo, and you just die. Like, so there's shit like that in the game.
The logistics around that, and I might be butchering it for any old Marvel 2 heads, but you have to block on incoming, because you're coming in, and if you get hit, you're just gonna die. But you only have a set amount of actions in the air, so blocking is taking one of your actions, and then if you're blocking again, you have no more actions to do, which is why you just get hit. So you're getting your guard broken. But old game design, I guess.
I feel like that sounds like, from that technical explanation, like such an easy bug to fix. Like, blocking should not count as an action. Like, just move that property in the code, and then the whole, like, the history of this game is completely different. But because that didn't make it past testing, instead the game is this way, which is the charm of these kind of games, right? It actually, and if MVC4 came out and that existed, people were like, this game is fucking dumb. Broken trash dev. You know what I mean? Like, it would be totally different. But because it's from this ancient game and they kind of developed around it, it's actually a beautiful thing, this emergent gameplay that formed from these glitches. And now we have a whole meta of people doing infinites with Iron Man and War Machine, when previously it's like the Magneto and the Storms dominating, right? So very, very cool to see how this shapes up. So it'll be awesome to see some of the dedicated players, and maybe some new players who are grinding on the down low come out. Or maybe the Wasler. I don't know. I think Justin Wong is commentating these events. So, but who knows? Maybe he'll put the headset on while sitting on the floor of the stick and get another Evo title under his belt. He said he was done getting Evo titles, but this might be This might be his last chance, you know?
I got one more in me. Got
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, literally with the headset on. I'm sure he has the commentary gig lined up absolutely for that one. Beyond that, they also had some announcements for Evo about the extended lineup. So they're branching more into the community tournaments to provide official support with streams and also Evo Top 8 medals. So like Rivals of Ether, I believe it's said. I always butcher that name. Rivals of Ether 2 is on there. Yeah. KOF 15 got knocked down to the extended lineup. KI's in there. And they're going to be announcing more games as well. So they're building out their support for like the non-main stage tournaments, which is really cool to see. There's always been community tournaments at Evos, but not all of them. Like if you're side tournament versus community, once you hit community, like you're not getting Evo medals or, you know, things of that nature. Like they're not providing anything beyond space for people to run side events. So it looks like they're trying to like more officially support all games that don't make it to the main stage. But the big announcements to me are the fact that they are adding a ticketing system for the Evo finals to prevent the overcrowding issues from last year, and that they're also bringing back top 8. 2 big changes, which is more like return to form from 2022 and before. Like more like fixing what they broke, but it's really good to see. So I don't know, did you like the change from top 8 to top 6? What did you feel about that?
Top 6. I did not like top 6 because I feel like the 2 matches that are getting skipped because, you know, top 8 wasn't there was so weird, just to be like, oh man, you lost in winter semi. Well, you don't get a break. You got to go down and play your losers matches immediately. So I thought that was kind of silly. And also the matches the day before, like the top 8 match on like the stage in the back was just like, that's a top 8 match, but it didn't feel like a top 8 match because they're not in the arena. They're just, you know, playing where, you know, a top 32 would be. So it's not the same. I do really like that they're going back to top 8, and I also feel bad for a lot of the players who, you know, got the 7th places during that time, because it's not the same. Like, as someone who got to play on the Evo stage twice, like having that kind of aura or surrounding or seeing like everyone in the crowd behind you is really like if you feel like the passion and you feel like the oomph in the room, or like the
reverence, you know, it feels ceremonious. You understand the weight of the moment when you're in the finals arena.
Yeah, but then like to get 7th and just be in the same top 32 room, kind of just like, it's kind of whatever.
Yeah, so like for context, with Evo 2023, I think that's the first time they went to the top 6 format. So they did it for 2023 and 2024. In 2023, you know, Street Fighter 6 had over 7,000 entrants into it, which is like the biggest gaming event, period. There are some unspecified records there that they believe it might be the biggest gaming event to have this kind of scale of numbers. Fujimura and Nemo end up getting top 8, but they lose at the end of the day on Saturday, and they lose in the regular convention center after like 12 plus hours of gaming, because if you make it all the way far on Saturday, you're playing from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. essentially. And they cash out there. They do play a first to 3. It's considered a top 8 match. They do change it to first to 3, and they get an Evo medal, and they get some cash. But that's it. It's like, here's your consolation prize. Get out of here. Tomorrow, everyone else gets to be in the big arena on the big stage and step up there and line up and be part of the event. But you guys didn't make the cut. And then 2024, you know, 5,300 players for Street Fighter 6. Angry Bird and Tokido got 7th place. Angry Bird and Tokido, the last year's Evo champion, and Tokido, you know, legendary player, and multiple time Evo champion himself. They got the boot at 7th place, and we didn't get to see the reigning Evo champion even make it to the finals day arena. It would have been so much more badass having Angry Bird and Tokido in that top 8 lineup, right? On that stage. I think just even for the other players in there, for like, you know, Jen, Ending Walker, whatever, just having those other players there on the stage makes them look better. It really does. They don't look as impressive without those players next to them. Be like, we are with these players, and we actually place better than them, right? It just adds to the whole weight to the moment. So that sucked. So I'm super happy to see that they're going back to top 8. People were making comments for a long time that they went to top 6 to sell more Chipotle ads and have more downtime.
I remember I put they had to make it top 6 so Justin could beat everyone at rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
That last year one was fun.
There was some weird filler that they did. Like there was moments where Justin Wong was doing the rock paper scissors. I think that was for a giveaway for like PS5s or something. Which could have.
He was 7-1 in that. I think he beat everyone except for one person. So Justin was cooking.
Yeah, they're probably like, Justin, you got to throw. Like we're supposed to give away. We're supposed to be giving back to the community here. No, not flexing your RPS skills. Yeah, they got someone who's too good at fighting games to do that. But it's hard. I do want to be a little bit fair to Evo potentially, because maybe that would have been downtime they had regardless for production reasons. So like cover up the fact that they're swapping out games, whatever, assets, who knows. But at the end of the day, the top 8 in the FGC is a sacred cow. Like you make it through Saturday, you get into the top 8. That means you get to make it to the stage on Sunday. The finals is the top 8 players in the bracket. That's just how it is. The only time you don't have a top 8 is when you have less than 8 players in the bracket, right? That's just FGC tradition for 20 plus years. So them going against that was a bad move. I'm happy to see they corrected that because it's just anti-FGC in my opinion. So really happy to see that they're bringing that back. Beyond that, I think the other big play, the arena, right? You didn't make it into the arena on finals day, right? We were sitting outside.
No, I was. We couldn't get in. The line was all the way to the entrance of the convention center, practically.
Yeah. So if you didn't see the line, how it operated on that day, the Las Vegas Convention Center does not have its own separate arena like Mandalay Bay did. What they did was they just sectioned off part of the arena to be the stage for top 8, but everyone who had a ticket had access to that, meaning there was no way to limit the flow of people into there. And of course they can't support all the people in the convention center. Only a very small number of people could get in there. Led to like the fire marshal being present, people almost getting kicked out, lines around the convention center, people stealing chairs from the casual sessions to sit in the chairs while they're waiting in an impossibly long line. Rick, the manager of Evo, not being able to make it back into the convention, into the arena once he left to go to the bathroom. You couldn't leave to go to the bathroom, or else you were guaranteed to never get your seat back. It was not good. So they brought back a ticketing system, which they should have had in the first place, to limit the flow of people. So now, if you buy a ticket, you can actually get your seat and not lose it. And the chairs will remain by the casual setups. So they learned their lessons, I think, from the previous years and have been improving. So I think they're moving in the right direction in that sense.
If you register for Evo this year, you don't automatically get the ticket, essentially, right?
So yeah, you will have to pay extra for it, like in years past.
So yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why they went away from it. I guess they wanted to give everyone the opportunity to get into it, but I guess you're giving people too much not freedom, but too much power. But then even then, I feel like the prices will probably be cheaper now. So also it'll help out, people trying to save money or something like that.
You think they'll lower the prices? I don't think they'll lower the prices.
They have to. I'm not getting a ticket. Like, if I don't want the ticket, shouldn't I pay less? I don't understand.
Or maybe this was the move. They raised the prices and include the finals day arena in the previous year. This year, they just cut out the arena, leave the same price, and then charge extra for the ticket. Maybe that was their move to try to ease the price increase in there.
I don't know. I feel like my way makes more sense. If I'm not getting a ticket, I pay less, obviously.
Well, obvious is not always obvious. That's all I'll say. I'm not sure if the ticket prices have gone out. Maybe I'm blabbing about nothing here, but I would not be surprised if the ticket price remains the same. And now you just have to buy an extra ticket for the arena finals. And we'll see how that goes. It'll be tough to beat the scalpers and secure a seat. There was always a rush.
Undefeated.
Yeah, for Mandalay Bay, there was always a rush to get tickets. It was always hard. But you have to have that at the end of the day. There's limited seats. Like, it's kind of required. Better than the alternative, which is the whole event gets shut down from overcrowding from the fire marshal. So next thing they announced was also all the different events. They went into more details about what they're offering in terms of the 4 events that they're doing this year. First up is the Evo Awards. That's on February 15th in Los Angeles. That's coming up right around the corner. Then Evo Japan will take place on May 9th. Evo will be back in Vegas on August 1st, and Evo France, which is going to be also a tournament. So Evo Japan, Vegas, and France are all tournaments. So in Nice in France on October 10th will be that tournament event. So they're adding an extra tournament with Evo France, and then the Evo Awards is kind of like their idea of doing their own game awards for FGC. They announced the categories. Voting is live. A lot of the categories there's some silly ones, like Best Button is there. They have Luke crushing medium punch and Ken crushing medium kick up for nomination. And then there's like more serious ones like Best Pop Off, Best Commentary Moment, Best content. Maybe a trash talk is on there. Who knows? You might have to go look yourself and see what you can vote for. But it's an interesting attempt. I'm not sure if you feel like this is a good play from them, the Evo Awards. It feels a little... I don't know. I don't know if they're going to have enough substance to do this yearly.
Okay. I think it's good and bad. So part of the reason I think it's good, because I've always said we need like a fighting game Hall of Fame. I remember I was talking about this on my stream, kind of like an award system, because we all know the greats. Like if there was like an FGC Hall of Fame, it would be like, Justin Wong, Daigo, the Punks, the Sonic Foxes, etc. kind of thing. So I think that's good to kind of like preserve like the legends in our scene and like bring up people or have like a goal to kind of get to, because even in the NBA there's a Hall of Fame. Players want to strive to be in the Hall of Fame, be associated with all the great players. So I think that's all great, but the thing I am a bit skeptical about is I don't want this to kind of be the Street Fighter and Tekken praise society. Like there's other fighting games out there, because it's funny you brought up Best Button with Luke Crouch Medium Punch and Ken Crouch Medium Kick. The other button there that was 66L from Grand Blue, that button is making careers. That is a universal mechanic that's actually carried an insane amount of players in Grand Blue. So that one easily should win, because nothing can compare to 66L being as broken as it is. But like I said, it's kind of going to be the Street Fighter Tekken kind of praise off, because I feel like they're the two biggest fighting games, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you see the bias creep through in a lot of the nominations, like even like best content creator, which maybe there might be someone you recognize in there. I don't know. It's a lot of like FG, mostly Street Fighter centric stuff. I mean, there's like me and Broski on there who do exclusively Street Fighter for the most part. Diaphone's more variety. Justin Wong's in there does like old school variety, and Sagem does variety as well. But it's like variety plus Street Fighter guys. And then best button, like you mentioned, there's two Street Fighter buttons which are outdated. Luke Crouch Medium Punch was 2023, button of the year. But Ken should be Stand Heavy Punch from Ken. It shouldn't be Crouching Medium Kick. So there's definitely gonna be this sense of like, even though it's our own award show, there will still be this sense of like they're not quite on the ball. They're not quite on the nose with like the cultural beat, the cultural moment in the FGC. Some of this already feels outdated. It's already a little bit behind the time, and I think this was supposed to be a solution to the problem of multiverses winning fighting game of the year, or what was the other one? What's the action game that won fighting game of the year? Sifu winning fighting game of the year. That's not a fighting game. It's an amazing game. I'm sorry, but it's not a fighting game. It's just not. It's a really challenging and rewarding, amazing game. I don't want to discredit the game, but it's not a fighting game. Just by the definition of the genre, which is ambiguous, to be fair. But this was supposed to be the antidote to that, the antithesis of that, to do it by ourselves, for ourselves, so that we represent the community correctly. But even within the community, the FGC is a bunch of smaller communities under one umbrella. There's overlap between them, but there's definitely a difference between the SNK community, the Capcom community, and even in the Capcom community, there's divisions. And then there's, every other fighting games of the anime games, and within the subgenres of the anime games. Like, it's a bunch of different games and communities bundled together with a bit of overlap between them. And you're going to see that bubble up in these kind of awards. And to do these yearly, I don't even know there's going to be enough to do yearly, because a lot of the figureheads and the biggest representatives stay the same year to year. Is best content creator going to be Sagem every year? You know what I mean? Like, maybe this will inspire more people to change and more people to step up, but the things don't change hands that frequently in the FGC. Justin Wong has been running things for a decade or 2 decades already. You know what I mean?
Some people have won, MVPs in sports like years in a row, and it's not any different technically. Like if somebody wins MVP back-to-back years, you're just that good. I feel like. Yeah,
but that's a more objective, even though it's still subjective to a degree. It's a lot more objective. You're talking about one league, one sport, with stats to compare people, right? So there's still a subjectivity on top of it, but best content creator, stuff, best commentary, best whatever, like that's going to be super subjective, extremely subjective, and be way more subject in that sense to bias. Like, what are you paying attention to more? So I definitely see this is going to be, it's going to cause a lot of like discourse on Twitter is what I feel.
What you're saying is we need stats for the commentators. We need the how many is it go to kills per top 8.
James Chen is skyrocketing to the top. Let's go.
But I like I said, I like the awards because I feel like you're at least putting people to like a pedestal or like a place to get even higher, because you want to be recognized with like some of the great, like Yipes is a legendary commentator, Sajem's a legendary commentator for sure, but then it gives people who aren't on the Yipes or Sajem levels or like goals to reach or like levels to aspire to kind of grasp to or kind of try to reach. So I think that's great.
I do think that's great, and I like your point about the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, I'm not sure if you know, they did introduce the Evo Hall of Fame. So Daigo and Jay Wong were inducted last year, and that was like how they kickstarted this program. And Tokido was inducted this year on the announcement as well. And so they actually had a little interview with him where he revealed the origin to his name. It's like Tokido. Those were like the first words for the Japanese words for, what was it? Jump, kick, punch, something to that effect. And so he just, some player at his arcade said, you only do jump, kick, punch or something like that. And he just combined the first syllables of each word and it made Tokido. So you should check out that from the Evo announcement show for the details. I'm butchering the story here a little bit. So really interesting insight to Tokido's background. So that's a great third person in my view after Daigo, Justin Wong, Tokido being inducted to the Hall of Fame. So they are building that out as well. So this is just like the beginning of us trying to like preserve our history a bit more in a more formal manner. So I like the Evo Hall of Fame. I think the Evo Awards will have to mature. It still seems a little immature at the moment, not fully hardened. I think this might be something they can iterate on and keep improving. But I do agree overall, it's a good thing to have, but it'll be tough to balance all the different communities under one title of Evo.
There's so many fighting games. That's really what the problem is. There's so many fighting games, and like it's hard to keep track. I'm super invested in fighting games. I probably couldn't tell you a single thing about Uni going on right now, but that's just how the FGC works. Like I'm invested in so many games, but I don't know everything. I don't think I saw a single Uni nominated thing for those Evo Awards, but is that to say Uni's a bad game? No, I'm pretty sure Uni's great, and the people playing Uni probably love Uni too right now, but I'm uninformed. You're probably uninformed as well, so it really does. It sucks because it's a fighting game award, but there's a popularity contest obviously amongst the fighting games.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'll point out the last one before moving on. They've got next, like trying to highlight the upcoming talent. And the players nominated are Enzo the Hokage, who's like a 13, 14-year-old Street Fighter player. Boos, Street Fighter player. Noah the Prodigy, Street Fighter player. King Ray Jr., Tekken player. And then Blaz, 15-year-old Street Fighter player qualified for Capcom Cup, right? So it's 4 Street Fighter players and a Tekken player. So
maybe the 15-year-olds aren't playing Uni. I don't know.
they probably are, but they can't. There's no $1 million tournament for them to qualify for in their region, right? Like it's just like the stakes are higher for these other games, so they get more visibility. So they'll attract more awards, kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Kind of cyclic. It feeds into itself, really. So we'll see how they manage to balance that going forward, because it's not an easy task to undertake whatsoever. But speaking of like fighting games under one roof, Locals, another popular piece of discourse coming up. Which it's all, speaking of cyclical things going in cycles, right? People always come back to this topic about supporting your locals, and of course we had another instance of that on Twitter where there were some complaints going around about the value of locals, where one person expressed how can you expect for people to spend $15 every week to show up for their locals, and this inspired everyone to bust out their favorite dunk. You're broke. Get a job. The FGC in unison screamed from the rooftops here. Oh man, you are broke. But I think there's a lot of nuance to the topic, and I discussed this on my Clips channel. But yeah, it got people to talk about how locals are not necessarily just a bracket, and how if you have the means, you should definitely be able to support your local events and support your local TOs. It's expensive to host in a physical space that you're renting out, extremely expensive. And there's a lot of like nuance in that discussion. And is it really worth it for people to go to locals? Because I also can understand you might not have the money, you might not have the time. There's a lot of nuance there for sure. But I think this is a good topic for you to chime in on your take, because Idom, you're a player who came up in one of the most world-renowned locals on the planet. And even in this era where everyone's shifted to primarily online community and online play, you still go to the local, right?
Yeah, I still go to NLBC a lot. I mean, like I said, I'm lucky to be blessed to still have one of the best local actually out there, because NLBC it's so good, and it's so, it's convenient for me to get to, because it's like a 45-minute drive with no traffic, maybe like an hour with traffic. But even then, also NLBC was nominated for Local of the Year for the Evo Awards, so vote for NLBC. Luckily for me, like, we had so many strong players. We had the background history. We had so many legends come from our scene, like Yive, Sanford, Dominion, Smug. The list goes on. So I was just lucky enough to be in my area, and even for me, when I was going to the local, it was $20 for me. I first went to NLBC when I was 13 or 14, but I wasn't even going to make my money back. I was going to play the video game, like the love of the game. I was going to play Marvel 3 because I thought Marvel 3 was sick. And I still remember being able to go there to play like Fublot. Who else did I get to play? Flux, Ray Ray, etc. So
right.
I was just lucky, and like there are so many killers, and I thought the $20 was worth my time to even just go to play against all these really good players. Nowadays you can just play online, which blessing or curse, whichever way you look at it. But I still think it's worth it, and like you get to make a lot of friends along the way. I don't know. If you could tell me not to go to locals, or like this would have been a Discord 13. Tell me this would have been at this course 13 years ago, I'd be like, really? People don't want to go to their local? The only reason I would ever not go to my locals is because I was a broke 14-year-old, or
right.
School was the next day, because for some reason Henry runs a tournament on Wednesday.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think
my
two excuses.
Expectations have changed though, because like let's be real. If back then MVC3 had perfect online rollback netcode and an MR system where it matched you with players of equal skill and you can play anyone in North America at a moment's notice, would you still be as incentivized from not knowing any of these people at NLBC to go? And I think online gaming has changed expectations. Back in that era, you had to go to offline meetups in order to play the proper version of the game. The online netcode for Street Fighter 4 and MVC3 was bad, right? And it limited your pool of available players. You had to be very selective about who you could actually play with. And to actually get the true experience of how the game operated, you had to find other people in physical proximity to you to play with. And that was your best option for practice. So if you're a person who's actually like nose to the grindstone, like you're just trying to get better, it actually behooved you to go and find a local to practice. That actually might be the best way for you to practice. Now it's the inverse. If you are playing offline at your local, you're actually literally limiting your pool of players. If you're like a Street Fighter 6 player, for example, and what you're actually getting less variety of players, and you probably don't have like Punk and Knuckle do at your local, right? If you wanted to have the best competitive experience with the most competition, you play TNS online. And you brought it up, right? This tipping moment has already occurred. In Best Local for Evo Awards, you have NLBC as one of the nominees, and TNS Online is one of the nominees. Even the locals, like what we define as locals, has changed. TNS Online is being voted for as a local. Now, they can't replace the same level of community you form with having that offline experience, but younger generation people, they play games for free online. They purchase the game, they play online, and they talk on Discord, and it's free. So it is like for people who are organizing events, it's a hard sell. It's hard to sell a local because you cannot compete in terms of providing competitive experience. So you have to compete on vibes and the social aspect. Like that's the competitive draw. If I'm just weighing my two options, Wednesday night, do I go to my local or do I enter TNS online? You have a lot to go up against to make that worth it for somebody to drive, spend time, spend money. It's just tough. It's just changing expectations.
It is a real tough argument because even then, like for me, I will probably say I would probably get better practice if I did probably play in TNS online than going to NLBC. But it is like the vibes, just hanging out with people, talking, shooting the shit, talking about whatever, going out to eat after. There's just so many other things that you can do that can make a good time. Bro, we had a Pokemon Stadium 2 tournament, Jenga tournaments, poker nights, like all that stuff is just all kind of like good fun. I can't do that on TNS online. I'm not gonna play Jenga with, online or something, but even then I don't know. I still like appreciate my local, and I'm grateful that my local's even there to begin with, because I couldn't imagine. I'm lucky enough to have like both options, but even then I go to support my local. I want Henry to keep running this tour. I want people to keep showing up. I want more people to show up to try to get better. Like I know people. I've seen the discourse too, because I remember there was one guy who was saying, why would I go to my local? I could just play on TNS, and IDOM has won like NLBC for like the past 20 weeks or something. And it's like, oh, you're just feeding the top players. And like, first of all, I want to lose so I can find something to improve on. And bro, it's SF6. I can get got. Like, don't look at it like that. I feel like people got to come out, keep trying to improve and get better. I give a lot of the players that go to NLBC advice. Some of the advice, people don't want to hear, because I'll just say, drivers jab more or throw loop me or whatever. But it's advice, and I'm giving advice. I want the players there to get better, and I want my scene to grow, because I want to see, like young Matt team beating Angry Bird, it's something you want to see, because you want to see, your local and your community get better and everyone gets stronger around you.
Yeah, I mean, you're developing community, right? And so that's the trade-off. Like the person who says, why would I go? X, Y, or Z is just going to win. They're looking at that from like a defeatist attitude, and their only goal, I guess, would be to play. But there is like, to be fair to that, if the bracket, or if the local is only a bracket, you show up, you go 0-2, you pay $15 to enter the venue, and there's a bracket there that you got into. If you go 0-2 and there's literally nothing else there, then you got the least amount of value from your money. Whereas the further you go into the tournament, not only do you potentially make money back, but you also just literally get more time to play. So yes, if that's all the local is a bracket, then yes, it's kind of a bad value proposition. It's bad money for your time. Or bad time for your money. But the idea being, that's not all you get. Like you have to be building community, and also I would say a good local will provide a lot of casual setups instead, so that people who aren't in the tournament can keep playing, practice, socialize, exchange advice. It's meant to be more than just a bracket. Where TNS online, if I lose in TNS, it's out, it's over. I queue up for rank, right? That's it. like there's no other. They do have the consolation bracket, like the 0-2 bracket rather, which I think is a great addition, but it's still just another bracket. It's not like there's no hangout, right? You'd have to find your own way to connect with these people in the online event, and socialize with them on your own, with your own initiative. So if the local is only doing a bracket, then it can be bad value. So I totally understand why people might have that mindset, and they might be thinking like, if that's what they're thinking of, like, oh, I'm just going to lose to IDOM, I better just get practice online with more variety. Then that's what they value. They just want to practice. They're not there to build community, which I also think is fine. Like, I understand that too. I shared this story where, like, at one point I made a conscious decision to stop going to my locals. I made a selfish decision in Street Fighter V to stop going to the Milwaukee local. I went for a long time. I supported, and then at a certain point I was like, I kind of want to spend my limited time on Friday to practice online and stream. And that's what I did, right? And I feel maybe a little guilty about it looking back, but it was like, to me, that was what I valued, right? And so it's like, I understand the other side of it as well. And to me, it wasn't the money, it was the time. This time is super valuable to me. So it's just a tough spot for everyone to be in. I think people should understand that TOs aren't, I just want to also clarify, TOs aren't trying to like milk the community. like if you have a physical space, it just costs a ton of money, so they have to charge sometimes. But on the other hand, if you have money and you're complaining about $15 a local, I feel like you're just being cheap. Like, I understand that some people are in an economic situation where they can't afford that, and that's unfortunate and totally fair. But if you're like, doing okay, and you're like, I'm not going to pay $15 to support my community and make a effort to connect with people, it's like, dude, come on. Like, you're paying $15 for Netflix, a large popcorn at the movie theater is $28. It's like, dude, $15 is nothing to support the community.
the way I see it is like you're kind of like you said, you're spending $15, but if you're going to do anything with your friends that say you want to go to a movie or go to a bar, I'm spending more than $15 anyway. Like I feel like
Right.
a local is usually probably a better bang for your buck. Yeah, you could probably stay home and play video games for free anyway, but I don't know. You get to, like I said, hang out and play a lot of top players, make new friends. Our local is lucky because like. I go to the local. Nitro goes to the local whenever there's Strive there. Lord Knight will show up. Dake shows up. We have a lot of top KOF players. Yuri Calls will show up. So we have the talent is there. Maybe it's not as much as like the online TNS where you get, all players from all over the world to play. But we have a lot of top players in our scene too.
Right.
And like it sucks sometimes when I'm looking at the bracket. I'm like, man, only like 8 people showed up for Strive or 8 people showed up for Street Fighter, and all these guys can make top 8 out of major, and it's like we're just killing ourselves. There was one tournament I think I played. I played Lord Knight first round for Strive or something crazy like that. I was just like, and he was just like, yeah, there's not that many people. Yeah, I was like, bruh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. That can also be intimidating to new players, right? Like I can see that being intimidating. So it's a complex topic and situation. So I don't fault people for not feeling like they want to go to locals, because at the end of the day, people's the only thing more valuable than someone's money is their time. And if they're not already connected to the community, I can understand them not seeing the value, and maybe they just particularly don't want to connect with the local people near them. I mean, there's like you don't have to be friends with the people around you, so like you can't shame people into going to locals as well.
Yeah, I understand you want to be introvert or antisocial kind of thing. So like that's understandable as well. Like I don't push people to like go to the local, like, oh, you have to go to your local, but at the same time I think it's a good investment, or if you've never been, at least try to go once kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something I would say give it a shot. Like it's one of those type of endeavors, because you might find more value than you realize. On the other hand, for TOs, I think it's an important thing to remember, like the only competitive leverage you have now for people's time and money is the social aspect, because you can no longer compete on the competitive front. That used to be a driving force for people like me. I would purposely drive everywhere I could in my crappy truck with my CRT to find people to play, because that's what I had to do, and I was dedicated to that. Now I just got to boot up online, right? Like you've lost that offline competitive leverage for hosting events. So the dynamics have changed entirely. And I'm hoping we can all strike a balance. And if you have the means to, don't be stingy with support. It's all I can say. Like if you can afford to go to the movies and you're going to complain about paying $15 for your local, that to me is like, bruh, come on. Maybe you want to spend your time elsewhere, but you can't pay $15 to like pay the venue fee to and support the community and hang out with people. It's like, yeah, you could maybe you could see the value in this if you opened your eyes a little bit more. That's all I'm going to say about that.
What's the longest you've ever drove to go to a local?
Well, it depends on what you define by local. I used to go to like from UF to Gainesville to Orlando and Tampa all the time when I was in college, which is like either like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and for like 8-man tournaments out of a boba shop. We would do that a lot.
I think I went to a local in Philly, but that was probably like 2 hours. But I think it was like me and like some of the other Street Fighter 5 heads. But that, like I said, we were just going there to like play all the people from Philly. But like it was kind of like, I guess, region kind of like balancing. You was like, hey, New York's better than that region kind of thing.
Yeah, that existed too, because you had to play offline, regional pride. And I would go to those Tampa tournaments because like Dew was there. You know what I mean? I remember the first time I went to that boba shop, I got second to Dew in Street Fighter 4. And then we all went back next time. Like, I was carpooling with people from Gainesville, and then I went 0-2. And I was like, oh, shit. I was doing good in Florida at the time. That's the first time I went 0-2 in like years. It was an 8-man tournament. It was like I played good players, and they beat me. And I was like, well, what do I do now? I just drove 2 hours to a random boba shop in Tampa, and I'm out. Shit. So I felt it all. I've made money from locals, and I've driven hours and just lost money, and that's it. So we've seen all sides of it, right? It's so I understand complaints from both parties for sure. But maybe we have the answer. Maybe we have the savior. Switch 2 officially announced. I don't know, man. I didn't think about this at first, but I think this might be the savior the FGC needs. We'll get into that in a second, but first of all, we talked about it a little bit previously, but they finally showed off the unleaked version of it, and they had that real, like, I don't know any other word to say besides like sexy announcement. What was going on with that? They had like the ASMR going on with like the old Switch model getting like a whole manicure pedicure like makeover. Like they were chiseling out all the curves. They were like getting the rubber on the new handles. It was a weird ASMR kind of vibes going on there with that announcement.
They wanted you to be aroused for the Switch too, I guess. Like, I don't know what they were doing, but like, bro,
you felt that too, right?
Yeah,
it was sensual.
Yeah, this is my this is what you want, right? I know you want the Switch 2, right? I was like, yeah, yes, please give me the Switch 2. I need
yeah. It was some real sensuality with that announcement. Some real deep sound design as well, with all of the chiseling out of the new model. But yeah, it's a Switch 2. It's a Switch but bigger. Looks nice. They showed off what looks like to be a short little snippet of potentially Mario Kart 9, like a new Mario Kart, which had actually more, I think it was like increased number of players in the track as well. So there might be a new Mario Kart coming. We'll get a Nintendo Direct on April 2nd for more details, but I think they stated that it's going to come out this year in that trailer. And from the leaks, there's no specific specs so far, but from the leaks, it seems like they're aiming for like a PS4 level of power, but portable, which is why I'm getting into the idea. Is this the console of the future for the FGC? Will we finally be freed from the shackles of Sony oppression?
The people who I was making fun of for playing fighting games on their Switch, they're about to laugh at me now when it becomes the FGC main console. But
yeah, dude.
I don't know.
Honestly, what do you think?
There's no, I don't want to say there's no way, because actually it's not that too far off. But
you saw that trailer, you started sweating. You're like, oh shit, the Switch is coming to prove me wrong. That bad boy. Because if it was powerful enough, that would be the perfect form factor for being an FGC tournament console, right? The PS5 is just doo-doo to carry around. That thing is so bulky and unwieldy, insane. But think about it. It's a PS4 level of power on the Switch 2. Street Fighter 6 is on the PS4.
I've never seen SF6 on the PS4.
Me neither. But rumor has it. Rumor has it that it did release on the PS4. It says so on the specs, right? That it did come out for PS4. So maybe Street Fighter 6 on the Switch. I mean, Guilty Gear Strive for sure. Like something. If it runs well on a Switch 2 and it's powerful enough, dude, that could be the future.
No, never happening. But I do want to say it's funny because we were talking about the whole Switch 2 thing last Trash Talk, but the nephew's uncle's cousin actually answered me. I said they're gonna leak it this week, and they did. So there you go. Somebody knew.
There you go. Trash Talk predicted it. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a interesting console. I'm glad they're kind of doubling down on the Switch because it's just the best console, I think, because they stayed in their lane and focused on making good games, unique games for the console format, and aren't competing with PCs. Because I think mainstream consoles like PS5 are just competing in the PC market, and if you're going to compete on fidelity, PC's going to win every time. So they stayed in their lane. They're making Switch 2 backwards compatible with most Switch titles, is what the trailer said. So what that means in practice, we'll see. But I kind of like them just iterating on the same iteration of the console that worked, and they were very clear about the branding. Switch 2. They didn't go Wii U. Like they totally blew it with the Wii to Wii U. That was even confusing for me. I was like, wait, what? Is that a new console? Is that an add-on? What's going on here?
DLC.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really caused them the most duress. Like that console failed so hard because no one knew really what it was. So Switch 2.
I'm excited for this. I'm excited for the Switch 2, but I'm excited for the Mario Karts. I know there was the 3D Mario game coming out leak, which I'm super excited for because I loved every 3D Mario game. So there was a Metroid Prime 4 leak, so I don't know. That's what I'm super excited for. I can't wait for the Switch to come out with the actual Nintendo game. I'm not, like I said, I'm not anyone's FGC. I'm not using my Switch to play fighting game kind of thing. I'm just here for the Nintendo games.
You're saying that now. I'm hoping this is the next time you have to, bite your tongue, because I would love for the Switch 2 to actually be like the ultimate low latency portability friendly console for the FGC's needs. Now, to be real, I doubt it's going to be able to run like a Street Fighter 6 or anything up to par in terms of input delay and all that. But I would love for us to get into that direction. Anything to get away from the grips of Sony owning the FGC. I think they've stepped it up a little bit in terms of, I think the console run correctly is okay. It's a little difficult for TOs to get right with the VRR HDMI 2.1. The in-zone monitors, I think they're okay. I don't know the full specs on them. But
they're weird because sometimes they'll be amazing, and then other times it's just like, man, this feels terrible. And I don't know if it's the console or the monitors or what's going on, but even then, it's just so awkward. Maybe we'll get what Xbox are we on? Xbox Series X? Maybe we can go back to Xbox.
Forget about it. That's never happening. I do think the Xbox probably would have been the superior console of choice just for the form factor itself. It's literally a box you can stack, right? It makes more sense for TOs, and it might be easier to set up for tournaments. But that ship has sailed. I'm looking for Nintendo to step it up and save us. But Sony's I don't know if it's a part or full owner of Evo at this point, but Evo is owned by Sony, at least to some degree. So that's why it's all Sony products for what they use. So Evo tends to dictate the standard that we all abide by. But we've gone against that in the past. Like in the past, there's been, in the 360 era, Evo used to use PS3 until the community finally revolted and said, hey, man, you got to use Xbox 360. Like, we have to play on 360s for these games because there's so much more input delay for like all the Capcom titles for Marvel and Street Fighter on PS3. So we've managed to change that back then, but Sony wasn't an actual investor or owner of Evo at the time, so we're kind of just getting deeper and deeper into that, which I don't think is healthy for the scene overall. I mean, maybe the money is good, but we tend to get locked into sponsorships from brands that actually don't optimize for what the players want.
Yeah.
Like maybe if it was a PC developer, like actually trying to push PC components, their whole branding and everything leans into performance. But in terms of console stuff, that doesn't really exist. It's getting there, but that's not the draw of like the console market. And so Sony is not like super interested in pushing low input delay, high refresh rate, good response rate. That's not the primary marketing force behind that brand. So it's always at odds with what we want, because we want the most responsive gaming experience possible. But the company that owns us doesn't care.
Sony wants, your game to look beautiful. You got to see the textures in the Hadouken. I feel like that's what they kind of want. They want the game to be a movie. The level 3 cinematics are supposed to look so nice, and Ryu, Shoryukening Ken is supposed to, you're supposed to feel that or be immersed in the gameplay. So that's what I feel like Sony wants to do. But what are we gonna do? Yeah,
they want your Sony movie simulator to really simulate that movie beautifully. So Nintendo, please save us. Make Switch 2 super powerful, super low input delay, super portable, and then we can be freed from the shackles of Sony oppression. That's my hope for 2025 with the Switch 2. And with that, I think we're good to wrap it up here. Adam, you have any final words of wisdom? I feel like you close on great thoughts for the people here, for the extra trashy listeners. What do you have to share here?
Well, last time, it was the Switch 2, which actually happened. So now, we got to go even deeper.
Okay.
So please, I got to manifest whoever's uncles, nephews, daughters working at Capcom, please add G for season 3.
Ooh, okay. G for season 3. I'm down. I'm with you on that one. That's the only DLC character I'd be looking forward to. G for season 3. All right. Another great item prediction on Extra Trashy, and it's guaranteed to come true. You're 1 for 1. So 100% success rate. So we'll be looking forward to that coming to us soon. And that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. Peace.